Okay, now if you're doing that at home, again, you could use a vacuum cleaner to clean off the excess dust. Okay? What do you have there, Randy?
This is a spot putty, just like we applied it the last time we did this.
Okay.
Only this is a catalyzed spot putty, and we catalyzed it this time so that we could speed the process up a little bit.
Now, if they're doing that at home, they can buy the spot putty already mixed and catalyzed right in the tube, right?
Correct. It's starting to look pretty good now.
Okay, what grit of sandpaper were you using on the spot putty then?
80 grit sandpaper here. And now I'd like to follow this up with some 80 grit sandpaper around this outside area here and feather this in for a primer surfacer. And I'm going to use the dual orbital sander for this to speed the process up a little bit.
Okay, but if you were at home, you could do this feathering around this outside edges like he's going to do, just with a block and an 80 grit sandpaper of your own.
Well, now I'll blow some of the dust off of here.
Okay, we removed our temporary masking tape down here, then we dusted the entire area off. Now we're ready for masking to get it ready for primer. And Randy's simply masking it off with masking tape going along this molding here. One thing about masking, you want to take your time because your final results is only going to be as good as the job that you do masking it off.
Okay, we'll just finish off here with our masking.
Okay, now he's using a special paper that has masking tape already attached to it from a dispenser. But if you're doing this at home, you can certainly use masking tape in old newspapers, works just fine. Okay, what's our next step, Randy?
Well, Scott, now we're ready to prime. But first I'm going to take the tack rag and just wipe off a little bit of the dust here that's settled.
Okay.
And we've already shook up our can of primer, but I'd like to do a little bit of a test panel first.
Okay. Now, why would you do a test panel?
Just to make sure that our spray pattern is correct and our nozzle isn't plugged.
Okay, now before we begin priming, again, we're going to make sure we have our respirator masks on and safety glasses.
Okay, now we're going to let this flash off, and we'll put a second coat on.
Okay, what do you mean by flash off, Randy?
Well, we want to wait until the solvents come out. You can actually see it as it's drying. It's becoming dull. When it becomes all dull, then we can apply another coat.
All right.
Now that our primer is dried, we're ready for our final sanding. What I've got here is a piece of 320 grit, wet or dry sandpaper. I've torn it in half, taken this half here and rolled it into 3 positions. And I'm going to insert my hard sponge in between this.
Okay, what's the reason for putting a hard sponge in when you're going to sand this?
Well, believe it or not, you can leave fingerprints or finger marks by not having something between your fingers and the sandpaper as you're sanding on the primer surfacer. So we want to put something in between. This is kind of a hard composition sponge.
Oh, okay.
Now what I'm doing here is just finishing this up with a little bit of 400 grit paper.
Okay, that'll give us our super fine finish for our paint then, won't it?
Yeah, feels pretty good. So I think we'll blow this off and we'll go into the paint.
Okay. Okay, Randy, what are you doing here now?
Well, I'm doing another wax and grease removing step. Get all the talc from the primer surfacer off and clean up any other debris that might be left in the job here.
Okay. I've got the can of paint all shaken up here. What I've got on the can here is a spray paint can gun handle. It makes painting a little bit easier. You can direct the spray. At the same time, it's a little bit easier on your finger. Okay, we all set?
Yeah.
Here's the paint.
We'll shoot out a little bit of a test panel here again.
Okay, we're ready. Let's put our mask on and begin painting. Well, it's looking pretty good, Randy.
Oh, we're just finishing our final coats now and just blending it a little bit into the edges to kind of match with the other paint.
Now, due to the transparency of the color that we painted here, we had several additional coats.
Let's quickly review dent repair. Wash the area and tape off the portion to be repaired. Grind off the rust and paint from the affected area. Pull the dent. Apply body filler and sand smooth. Again, clean the area and apply spot putty if necessary. Sand the repaired area, feathering into the surrounding finish. Mask off the area for painting and clean thoroughly. Spray several light coats of primer. Lightly sand the area and again clean thoroughly. Apply several light coats of the finished paint.
The items you will need to repair a rust spot include a wash bucket and car wash, a wax and grease remover or adhesive cleaner, some masking tape and newspaper, assorted sandpaper of various grits, a tack cloth, a sanding block and sanding pad, safety glasses or goggles, a dust respirator, a shop vacuum or air blower, an auto body hammer, a fiberglass kit or rust repair filler, chip guard or clear coat, some primer, and the matching paint for your vehicle. You'll also need some glazing or spot putty, rubbing compound, a polishing compound, and a good wax. Some optional tools include a drill equipped with a grinding disc and a dual orbital, or often referred to as DA sander.
Today we're here at the ColorWorks Auto Body Shop, where Randy's going to show us again how to fix up the body of our car. But the first message I want to point out is whenever doing power grinding or power sanding, make sure you're wearing a pair of safety goggles like this and a protective dust respirator like this one here. Randy, what are you going to show us here first?
Well, today, Scott, we want to repair this little bit of rust that's at the bottom of this door. And I suspect that after we grind this, we're going to have a small hole here.
Okay, so we're going to have to fill a hole up. Where do we get started?
Well, the first thing I want to do is tape off the outlining area with some masking tape to protect it from the grinder.
Okay. What did you do to the surface here to repair it before we started our repair?
Well, first we washed it thoroughly with hot water and soap, and then I went back over it with some wax and grease remover to get rid of the excess tar and wax.
Okay.
I'm going to use an air grinder to grind this away, but at home you could use an electric drill with a grinding disc attached to it.
Okay, well how coarse is the grinding disc that you have on your sander there?
Well, Scott, this is a 24 grit disc.
Okay, why don't we put our masks on and get started?